Good evening, Bethel Park, and welcome to the Bethel Park Recreation Live Well Speaker Series. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing our own recreation program coordinator, James Knight. James is a certified performance enhancement and injury prevention specialist. He has certifications in corrective exercise, too. He has worked with hundreds of people to help them reach their goals and achieve things they never thought possible. He has his master's degree in exercise science from California University. Tonight, James will be talking about fitness for all ages. Improving strength is key for all ages, particularly as we grow older. James is going to take us through a setup of our own fitness routine, whether you're beginners, intermediate, or advanced. He's going to discuss the importance of movement to rehabilitation exercises and improvement range of motion, helping us get back to the activities that are important in our lives. One of his clients, Judy Segeman, is here to join the discussion to discuss her journey from injury to recovery.
All right, guys. So, like Chuck said, my name is James Knight. I do have my master's degree in performance enhancement and injury prevention, which is in exercise science. I work at a gym downtown currently called Altus HPO, where we do a lot of fitness, rehabilitation science, as well as transformations to get you to where you want to be. As Chuck said, I did bring one of my clients, Judy Segeman, because we worked really strong together, and I've helped her increase her movement, her range of motion, and her posture significantly. Me and Judy's been working for about close to a little bit over 6 months, so we've had great progress, and we've been continuously increasing this progress as well. So today I just want to talk a little bit more about how to structure your workouts and just how you can continuously improve your overall life and your capabilities just by day to day, even within 15-minute workouts. So some things that a lot of people think is I don't have enough time in my day to be able to work out, or I just don't have the motivation. So just getting up and doing stuff is going to be your most important thing. So when it comes to just becoming a beginner and just beginner workouts, just getting up and walking is going to help out a lot. At the community center, we do have that walking track. So just coming up maybe in the morning time or after you're done eating or just any portion of the day or even going outside. Right now it is it's going to be 70 degrees today, which you won't see much, but it's just beautiful outside for you guys just to go out and just enjoy it while you still can. So just in that beginner portion of it, the biggest aspect that you need to do in order to improve your life, even just taking the small steps, will be just standing up, walking up outside, maybe just doing squat sits or seated squats to stands. So if you have a chair, you can actually just sit down in the chair and press yourself up. Do about 10 to 15 of those and just do 3 sets. So you're going to do it 3 times, 10 to 15, then take a break. Like I said, these workouts, just starting off, they don't have to be something extravagant. You don't have to go straight into it. You want to be able to do something that is going to challenge you a little bit starting off and continuously building upon that aspect of it. So in a beginner workout, I would suggest doing something like squat sit-ups. Do an incline push-up off the wall, or do it off the table, which will help you keep a lot more stable, as well as it's going to help that abdominal wall stabilize. You can do other things such as leg raises, you can do crunches, sit-ups, but the most important aspect of a beginner workout is going to be just getting up and moving. So once you start losing your movement and once you start losing range of motion, it's extremely hard to get that back. So things such as these exercises are going to help out a lot with that. A key thing as a beginner is I also want you guys to look into being able to open up your gait. So when I talk about gait, that's going to be the hip girdle. A lot of the times people sit in a closed desk, which causes their hips to be a lot tighter. It's going to cause a lot more pelvic issues, as well as going to cause a lot of hip flexor issues. So being able to stretch your gaits, being able to open up your gait and have a wide gait is going to help a lot in just that movement aspect. You're going to feel a lot better, as well as it's not going to cause your hips to it's not going to cause your hips to tuck under or tuck out, so you're not going to feel that lower back tension. So things such as stretching your lower gaits, your upper body as well, such as arm circles, hand overhead, tricep extension. Things like those are going to help out with just general movement and general flexibility. So once you start losing your mobility and flexibility, that's when things starts going down, and it's so hard to get that back. So just maintaining a good and positive just movement base is going to help increase that overall. When it comes to more of a intermediate style workout, that's not necessarily changing anything from the general beginner workout, you're just making it a little harder. So when it comes to like chair sit to stand, you're gonna remove that chair and you're just gonna do regular squats. So essentially you're gonna have your feet shoulder width apart, you're gonna push your hips back as far as you can and come right back up. So that's going to help out a lot with quad activation, hamstring regenerative ability. It's going to help a lot with your glutes. So it's going to help increase that overall posterior performance. So being able to have a strong hamstring regenerative ability is going to be able to help you spring back up. So doing hamstring exercises and lengthening that hamstring exercises is going to help out with just the overall movement of that lower extremities. As well as like I said, just increasing the range or just making it a little harder. Things such as instead of doing an incline push-up, go to a knee push-up. So that's when you're going to be on your knees, going down into a push-up position, coming right back up. That's just going to make it a little harder than if you were wanted. If that was a little too easy, you can always increase that to make it something more of just a regular push-up, or push your knees back further and your hips down further in to make it that resistance a lot more harder. Other things such as Romanian deadlift, that's going to engage the hamstrings a lot more. Like I was talking about that hamstring regenerative ability, the hamstrings play a huge role in overall performance as well as overall movement. So if you have good hamstring regenerative ability, it's going to help you spring back up from that elongated position. So when you imagine your hamstrings as a rubber band, you always want the rubber band to be able to go out, then come right back into its natural position. You never want the rubber band to go out, then actually extend out. So being able to work on the hamstring regenerative ability is going to help you spring yourself back up and actually put a little more pep into your step.
Yeah.
So when it comes to things such as advanced workouts, this can be numerous different ways. If you're still looking at just doing body weight stuff, you're going to be focusing a lot more on depth of squat. So you're going to be focusing on bringing your butt as close to the ground as possible while keeping your knees on an external rotation and keeping a tripod foot, which is going to be essentially the two knuckles and your heel. You always want those to be planted down to the ground. Always have good roots there, and it's going to help you a lot alleviate any kind of knee pain and tension that you have. Myself, I have a torn ACL, MCL, and lateral meniscus where I tore it in high school, had the surgery. I also tore it again in college. However, that second time I decided not to get it fixed. I've been doing a lot of things such as hamstrings and quad activation, which allows my ACL not to slip forward or backwards anymore. It actually keeps it in the pocket, so I'm still able to squat over 500 pounds with a torn ACL. So this will, being able to just continuously focus on your rehabilitation, focusing on proper movements is going to take away a lot of tension and pain from a lot of general aspects that you might have. As well as that, I have a slap tear in both my shoulders. Occasionally, it means with a slap tear, it means I have a labral tear in the shoulder where it could have an open and closed phase. If it's open, that means my cartilage essentially flipped open and it's continuously grinding on my joint. When it flips back in, the tension goes away, but being able to increase the front, rear, and side delt helps out a lot with keeping my shoulder in the pocket so I'm not feeling a lot of tension or slipping of my shoulders. So that helps out with that as well. So when it comes to rehabilitation science and being able to continuously focus on yourself and increasing your strength so you're not feeling as much tension, you want to look into where it's generally hurting. So if you have a lot of knee tension or knee pains, you can do things such as leg extensions, or you can also do things that's going to focus a lot more on the quad front portion as well as the hamstring back portion to pull that knee back into alignment. So a lot of times people have a lot of issues because they feel a slipping of their knee, or they're feeling a cartilage, or they're feeling grinding. So being able to strengthen not just your quad, but your hamstring and also your calf and soleus is going to help pull all that back so that you're taking the tension directly away from your knee. One thing that you never want to do in any exercise, even when you're standing, is having a locked joint. So let's say I'm in a standing position. You never want your leg to actually be fully straight. You never want to be standing at a fully erect position because that's just putting direct tension directly through the body part. So that's going to cause a lot more wear and tear. So you always want to have just a slight hip hinge or a slight bend in the knees, even when you're just standing there or not realizing it. That comes to every single exercise, even such things as push-ups. You never want your arms to be fully locked out. You always want to have a slight bend. So when you're coming down to the chest, you're coming up and you still have a slight bend, but you're still getting enough contraction and pull in that tricep and chest. So those are things that you really should be focusing on. We're going back more to the advanced portion of a workout. Even if you think that body weight isn't going to be advanced enough for you, there's always things that you can try that will increase the body weight tension, such as time under tension. When you have a lot more muscles under tension, that's going to cause you to come down into the pocket a lot more, and you're going to feel a lot more burning and a lot more firing from the muscles. So if you're going to list a lot more group muscle and exercises through that. So if you're doing a push-up and you want to do it a lot more advancedly, you want to come right down to the pocket, do a push-up hold. This is also going to focus a lot more on that abdominal wall, because when you're holding down, you have to maintain a good stable back or a good stable abdominal wall, as well as erectors spinatus, which is going to, or erectors and back stabilizers, which is going to elicit a lot more stabilization. So that's not, push-ups don't just work on chest and triceps, but they also work on a lot of your back and abdominal wall too, because you're focusing on stabilizing that. Doing a lot of compound movements and exercises that can add a little more muscle group elicit a little more muscle groups will actually help improve general equilibrium. It'll help improve balance. It'll help improve just your day-to-day base, because you're eliciting a lot more muscles. They're all firing at the same time, meaning you're getting a lot more muscle memory, you're getting a lot more muscle stimuli, and it's going to help improve everything like that. So I do want to introduce you guys to one of my clients. Like I said, we've been working together for about close to 6 months. Her name is Judy Sedgman. When we first started, she had a shoulder surgery, which reduced a lot of her range of motion in her shoulder, as well as she did have some knee injuries and knee surgeries as well. So Judy will actually be able to tell you her backstory, and we'll get, when she's done with her backstory and tells you a little bit about herself and her injuries and her mindset, we'll actually talk a little more about what we did to increase her range of motion, her strength, as well as help her overall movement.
Well, hi, I'm Judy Sedgman, and I am 79 years old, and I am thrilled to be here with James, because he has done so much for me in the brief time that we've worked together, and I'm hoping this will go on and on. When I moved to Pittsburgh almost a year ago now, and during the time that I was moving, I was recovering from shoulder surgery, or I had shoulder replacement, and I'd finished physical therapy, and I'd gone to a gym there, but it was all sort of Nautilus type machines. It wasn't too much that I had to do. But it was better, and the doctor was thrilled with my progress. So I'll have to demonstrate this for you. So when I had 12 years of a frozen shoulder, which was ridiculous, but I kept putting up with it. And at its worst point, which is when I moved here, before I had the surgery rather, this is as far as I could get, and my hand would start shaking. So this hand was virtually useless. And I'm right-handed, so I had to learn to do everything with my left hand. So when I had the shoulder surgery, my doctor said, look, I don't want to promise you too much. It's been that way for a long time. You have serious arthritis and bursitis in your shoulder. I'm going to give you a new shoulder. It was a reverse shoulder replacement. And he said, and as he was demonstrating, he said, if you can go this far, at least you can brush your hair. It'll be great. And I was like, well, yeah, it's better than this, So I was willing to do the surgery just to get to this. So when I first moved here, I was thrilled because I had gotten to this. So when I first met James, and he'd say, well, how high can you raise your hand? It was about here. And now it is there. And I don't know where else it could go. And I think the last time you measured, you said I had gained 6 inches of reach.
Yep.
And it's almost up to my good arm, which I've never had a problem. So that was thrilling to me. And the thing that surprised me is that I believed my doctor. When my doctor said, oh, don't count on, so I didn't try. I thought, well, okay, I've gotten farther than he thought I was going to get. I guess that's it. And I think a lot of us do that in life. Somebody who is an expert tells you, well, this is pretty much what you can expect. So if you get that far, you get all excited about it and you quit making an effort. So when I met James, he was like, well, let's see what we can do. And I said, okay, because I was kind of inspired by his story, which he mentioned. And also I just looking around the gym, just seeing people doing things. There was nobody else there my age, but they were all in different stages, and I would see them improve. And so one of the things that I've really learned from this association is that it doesn't make any difference how old you are. And it doesn't make any difference how limited you've been. If you get something fixed, it's not broken. And so use it. And when I had my knees, I had both knees replaced. And when I had my first knee replaced, my surgeon was a sports medicine guy. And he happened to be I'm sorry to mention this, but he was the official orthopedic surgeon for the Tampa Bay Bucks, which I know I shouldn't mention up here, but I live near the...
It's okay, we beat them.
Yeah, I know. That was amazing. So anyway, he said to me, okay, he said, Judy, I've given you the same knee that I would give a football player. Now, I don't expect you to play football, but you cannot break this knee. He said, nothing you can do that's going to hurt this knee, so do whatever you want to. But when I went to physical therapy, the physical therapist was satisfied when I could stand up and sit down, and, walk comfortably and ride the bike. And she, she wasn't encouraging anything like doing something that resembled a squat or anything like that. And she didn't want to put pressure. They always sort of hold back, and I think they're afraid of being sued, or, they don't want you to whine or whatever. But the thing I noticed in physical therapy, because there were a lot of people in my age group in physical therapy, is how much difference it made the attitude people had. I was surprised at the number of people that would get their surgery, go through all of that, show up in rehab, and then sit on the table and go, no, I don't want to do that. No, it hurts. And no, don't stretch my, don't. And the physical therapist would back off. So my physical therapist, I said, don't do that. If I whine, just tell me to shut up, because of course it hurts the first time you do it, I mean, you can't, like surgery, post-surgery, you're going to hurt for a little bit, but it doesn't mean that that's forever. And the only way to get over it is to use it. So I was kind of the poster child for keeping myself from whining, but also, from believing, okay, if you do this today, next time you do it, it won't hurt as much, and the next time it won't hurt at all. And I've kind of taken that approach with James. He's had me do some things that I was kind of shocked that he would say, oh, you just do it, you'll be fine. And I did. And then sometimes it would hurt, and I just thought, well, okay, it won't hurt tomorrow. And it doesn't. It's you can still improve no matter what. And I went through a period of time when I was physically fit most of my life. I was a runner, and I went to the gym, and I was careful. But I went through a period of time when both knees were really bad, where I just could not do a lot of stuff. I mean, I just couldn't. I couldn't climb stairs. I mean, I was terrible. Every building I went to had to have an elevator if I had to go upstairs. It was just an awful, limited life. And I was putting up with it because I was so busy, I thought, that I didn't want to do the surgery. But when I had those 2 surgeries, it was like a new lease on life. I thought, okay, I've got good knees now. I can do anything. Okay, I've got a bad shoulder, but that's not anywhere near as important as my knees. And that began me on the journey of saying, okay, I can walk far, I can walk fast, I can do anything I want to do with my legs, because these are better knees than the ones I had before. And that made a huge difference in my general outlook. But then, the shoulder went bad, and then I thought, oh, well, you're getting old, and I went through that kind of down. I knew better, but I did it anyway. And then, I just kind of came to life, truthfully, James, since I started working with you, I just kind of came back to life, because James's attitude is, yeah, let's try it, and he comes up with these very creative exercises. I never know what I'm going to be asked to do. It's very rarely, the same thing, except in things that you have to do. But every time I go, it's something new, a new challenge, and it's really exciting. I mean, I look forward to it. And I'm always sad when it's over. James, he laughs at me because I go, it can't be over, because it goes by so fast. But the truth is, exercise is fun, and I think that physical fitness and mental fitness go hand in hand. And it's something I've experienced myself in my life, because I actually teach mental fitness, and I work with people to help them to understand that we can't be frightened by our own thoughts. But I honestly feel that as you feel physically stronger, you feel much more optimistic. and even people with limitations, I even see people that have, like Parkinson's disease and things like that. The people that keep trying and keep doing as much as they can are happier people than the people that just give in and sit around and wait to die. And I've had clients as a mental health counselor. I've had clients that have been very active their whole life. I had one guy that comes to mind was had been in construction, had served in Vietnam, had been in construction, was a big tough guy, and then he fell off a roof. And he had multiple injuries, and then he was somewhat crippled. I mean, basically, he had so many things that got broken. And he was, when I first met him, he came in on a walker, and he was like really shaky. And, and I talked to him about his mental outlook towards life and the fact that he was living in the past and thinking that he was 30 again. He's never going to be 30 again. He's an old guy, but he can be the best he can be. And his mental attitude improved tremendously. And the last time I saw him, he came in with a cane. And he was doing much, much better. And he had joined a group of veterans, and they were traveling and doing things together. So part of trying out physical fitness is also the attitude you bring to it, and the hopefulness, and the enthusiasm, and the willingness to try. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So touching base a little more back on what me and Judy do. So during our sessions, I like to break it down into two different sessions. So we do an upper body and a lower body split for her. During the one session, we'll do lower body. When we do the lower body, we do a lot more of like equilibrium training. We do a lot more balance training. We'll do a lot more just like sit to stand stuff, as well as adding resistance to that and adding more weight. So being able to do that has also helped her. Her hips were a little tilted back, so it helped her get a little more under the pocket. So that means her hips are a little more upright. So doing that helped a lot with the stabilization of her lower back. She did tell me that one day she just woke up out of bed, and when you woke up,
stood up.
You were able to stand up with no issues. You didn't have to worry about stretching or anything in the morning.
Right.
You just felt great waking up in the morning. Right. So doing stuff like that and being able to continuously increase the overall strength and muscle flexibility, as well as endurance, is going to help increase your overall time spent moving, and so it's going to make everything a lot easier for you. So things such as the sit to squat or sit to stand, adding a little bit of weight during that is what we do, whether it be imbalanced one where you're holding a weight on one side and sitting to stand, or you're holding it on the other side, or even if you're focusing on the trunk stability up top and holding the weight up top. So holding the weight up top is going to help a lot more with the abdominal wall stabilization, because you're focusing on not peeking over when you're standing up. And you're engaging a lot more of the quad because you're trying to keep that balance in your firing patterns from the quad and hamstrings. When it comes to the upper body split, that's where I like to change up things a lot more for her. The reason why I like to change up a lot more for her is because of her shoulder. So we've been focusing a lot more on the shoulder aspect of it, whether shoulder aspect and bringing the shoulders back into the pocket. So if you have kyphosis, which is a hunch of the back, being able to focus a lot more on the retracting of the shoulders, squeezing the back, is going to help you give you a lot more better of an upright posture. Even just holding your shoulders back and just squeezing it and sitting in a more upright position for about 30 seconds, doing that at least a few times a day is going to help you feel a lot more engagement in the back, and you'll actually feel yourself looking from this position to more of this position. So it will actually bring your chest up, it will bring your head up as well. Things like that, as well as focusing a little more on the side delt. Being able to focus on the side delt is going to help engage a lot more of the front delt and rear delt. So doing things such as flies or doing isometrics where you're holding the weight out directly and you're just holding it for a set amount of time, so like 30 seconds, something like that. Or even just walking within, focusing on the imbalance portion of that as well, because it's going to, if you're walking with the weight out to the side and you're focusing on keeping this stable, you're going to feel the oblique engage, you're going to feel yourself trying to lean to that side, but you're fighting it to be able to maintain a good balanced posture. So things like that. To help increase the overall range of motion, we've done things such as band retractions, which will hold a band and we'll focus on just retracting the shoulders back and squeezing and going into a row. Things like just general aspects of movement, as well as being able to strengthen the overall general areas around the delt and the AC joints, such as the front, side, and rear quad or delt, as well as like the things such as your traps, your lats. Focusing on all of that's going to actually give you a lot more movement in that arm, because you're not having a bunch of muscles firing against each other. You're having a bunch of muscles actually work with each other to be able to lift up a little higher.
And that's all true. It's amazing. I mean, in terms of, I live alone. I've lived alone for a long time. I do all my own housework. I do, a lot. I'm very active. I walk a lot. I don't even have a car. I live in downtown Pittsburgh, and I walk pretty much everywhere. And I just have found that since I've been working out with James, that all of this is easier. It's not that I couldn't do it before, but I was like, oh God, and like I can move furniture and I can do all kinds of things that I couldn't do before. So, my goal is to be more physically fit when I turn 80 next year than I was when I turned 75 5 years ago. So that's my goal. And I'm getting there.
Judy, that's a great goal to have. James, a couple questions. First of all, when you're rehabbing something, is it better to use machines or free weights, or is it a combination?
So personally, it all depends on what you're rehabbing. Every machine and every exercise has its purpose. Such as if you look, I posted just on my Instagram, my coach's Instagram, about a quad extension or a leg extension. So when you're doing a leg extension, if you're actually going out and you're holding an isometric on just the machine itself, you'll feel a lot of tension pull down, but that's when your quads are going to engage a lot more. It's going to actually strengthen your patella area as well as the stabilizers around there, so you're just not pulling down and you're not feeling a lot of tension in that knee. So it actually alleviates a lot of pain. So depending on what the machine is, focuses a lot more on what the whole general aspect of what is working. Machines are great because they focus on a specific body part. There's not much you can do wrong on a machine. However, it also takes away some of the stability, a portion of it. Mm-hmm. So if you're working on the machine, I would also recommend doing just general holds and stuff like that. But if you can, try to do the same exact exercise or find an exercise that's going to focus just like on dumbbells or stuff like that. Because if you're using a dumbbell, let's say we're doing a chest press, for example. The machine with the chest press, you're sitting in the upright position, you're pressing out and in. That focus is just a lot on your chest. You're gonna get a little bit of the shoulder activation too because of the way the machine's set up. However, if you're using a dumbbell and you're laying down, it's focusing a lot more on the stabilizers in your shoulder because you're focusing on bringing it down and back up. It's not as clear of a path, so you could actually have your arms slightly come up, and if depending on where the angle of the muscle or the angle of your arm is actually going down, we'll focus a little more on if you're working more shoulders or more chest. So when it comes to rehabilitation, you want to focus on something that's going to give you both the activation as well as the stabilization. Mm-hmm. So if it's a little more lower extremities, I would suggest doing a lot more free weight stuff, because if you're doing free weight stuff, you're going to be able to get the whole stabilization because your legs are not just supporting the weight that you have in your hands, but also the weight that you have from trunk up.
Judy, you talked about the mental part of physical fitness and being a wellness person. That is great, and I think we're overcoming the stigmatism of talking about our mental health.
Yeah.
And it caught me this week. I was reading an article after the Buffalo Bills win, and the coach, Brian DeBall, I think is their head coach, he praised their sports psychologist they had, and I was taken aback because I've never heard an NFL coach talk about the mental, preparation from a sports psychologist. So I think it's becoming more and more acceptable, and I think that really helps, everyone. Absolutely. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the sports psychology majors used to take my course at WVU because the biggest problem they would have with training young athletes is they get so disappointed if they fail at something, and then they are afraid to try again, or they lose their will, or they lose their confidence. And for a lot of in the world of sports, that's the key. But it's also true in life. If you set out, like if I set out to walk 5 miles and I can't do it that day, I don't give up. I just figure, okay, so tomorrow's a new day. I'll do it. I think that from my perspective, a lot of the things that go wrong with people, especially as they get older or injured or have some limitations, is they begin to think of themselves as less than, and they start living in the past in their mind. Oh, and I knew we all do that. And I remember when I used to do this or that. But the fact is that in the now, whatever you can do it as well as you can, and keep your mind in the present moment. You can't be what you used to be, but you can be the best you can be at any time. And I think that's true in in all of life, not only sports, but academic achievement and marriage and family, raising children and everything else. You just don't want to ever have a failure and then say, well, the hell with it, I can't do it, you know?
Yeah, like on the way in, me and Judy were actually talking about how it's just, everything becomes so much harder. Once you start getting older, muscle starts getting tighter, muscle starts getting more stiff. But once you start losing the ability to be able to do something, it's so hard to actually re-engage it and be able to get it back. So if you're at this point right now, you can be at this point, you could be slowly coming from this top point slowly down the more and more that you're not doing something.
Right.
So you're obviously, no matter obviously when you're getting older, you're going to start seeing a decrease. However, you don't want it decreasing at a fast pace. You want to be able to mitigate that and actually slowly do it over time. So you will lose some functionalities. However, you won't lose all mobility, and you're going to be able to continuously do stuff that you love, whether it be go outside, jogging, running. Like I just saw a video the other day. There was a 96-year-old man. He competed in a senior Olympics, and he won first place and all this stuff. He was running. He was running. He was doing shot put. He was doing discus. He was doing everything. And being able to continuously push yourself, you can't imagine yourself being at like 80 years old as you were at like 18. That's not going to happen. But you can definitely imagine yourself from 80 to 50, 80 to 40, stuff like that. Because you can continuously improve yourself and continuously increase the muscle mass and maintain the muscle mass to be able to continuously push yourself. It's all mental state. So being able to think that you can do it's going to help you get yourself to where you want to be, even if you're not there yet.
And one more thing on that too is that, you know, I am really shocked every day of my life to discover the things that I'm still doing that a lot of my friends don't do. I don't think about it until I would call somebody up and say, hey, do you want to take a walk? Oh, yeah, no, I just can't walk that much anymore. You know, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, you're 2 years younger than me. Why not? You know, and it's just because people stop doing things because they look at the calendar or they look at the clock and they go, oh, well, you know, I guess I got to stop. So don't do that to yourself. You know, just keep going.
There's an old saying I heard, we don't grow old. We don't stop exercising because we grow old. We grow old because we stop exercising.
That's true.
And it's starting to hit, as I get older, it's starting to hit home more and more. And
I think that's definitely true.
We talk about, you know, what I did years ago.
Yeah.
The older I get, the better I was too, you know. And you're like, oh, maybe I wasn't that good. So trying to take a different approach to life. And, you know, there's a lot of different aspects of wellness. The mental part is just as important as the physical part. Yeah. James, let me ask you a question. Now, how old should a child be before they start strength training?
So that's a huge contradiction throughout the entire exercise realm. A lot of people say that you shouldn't be older than 13 or you shouldn't be younger than 13 to start working out. It's all perspective. There's no general answer for that. It all depends on the activation, the progress, and the overall stability of where you're at currently as a child. So I've seen kids from 10 and up actually working out. I've seen kids from start at 16 years old. It just all depends on where you're at. Being able to start at a younger age, not even just strength training or lifting weights, but focusing a little more on just your general coordination. Because the biggest issue you're gonna have as a child or training children, stuff like that, is their overall coordination. So they're continuously growing into their bodies, or they don't necessarily know how to move their extremities as well, or their feet might have grown 2 inches overnight. Yeah. So it's just something they're not used to doing. Being able to focus on proper form and technique is going to be the biggest aspect of increasing and just building upon your child. So it doesn't necessarily have a certain age frame. If I was going to say to start actually picking up weights, I would definitely say 10 and up, but definitely not something that's going to be extremely heavy. So it's going to be something that just focuses on general form. So if you're doing a deadlift, you want to be able to have an upright back, you want your hips back in the pocket, you want to be able to pull up in just a straight line and dragging that bar directly up your legs. Or if you're doing a squat, you want to be able to push your hips back, have a proper hip hinge. So it's just going to be essentially focusing on building the coordination, the equilibrium, the stabilization, everything along those lines that will help make the kid feel a lot more confident in themselves. They're going to feel a lot more in control of their body. They're going to feel everything's going to become a lot easier because they have the control of their body through their muscle memory, through the muscle neurons firing, and the transmitters actually firing at a faster pace. So it doesn't necessarily have an age, but getting your kid started at a younger age, whether it be through speed training. Speed training is a great way to do it because they're focusing a lot more on footwork. You're gonna see your children get a lot better footwork. You're gonna see them become a lot faster. They're gonna be able to understand every aspect of their lower extremities doing speed work, as well as doing stuff like just body weight push-ups, wall push-ups, or just have them hang from a bar. Stuff like that's going to help them a lot more than you think. So just starting them off slowly, focusing on their overall balance, focusing on their overall coordination is the first aspect. As a kid, I know everyone's done this. There's been a curb. You're going to walk on that curb. Just have your kid walk on the curb. Have them try to stay on the curb. It's just going to help them out a lot more than just throwing them into something if you don't have the background in it, or if the coach or trainer that you think has, or the coach or trainer that you're sending your kid to doesn't necessarily know much about kids' exercise science and stuff like that. So you never want to just dive head first into it. Even as an adult, you want to focus on the basics. You want to focus on building up on yourself, or building yourself up, as well as you want to focus on just proper form. So even as like pro strongmen or pro bodybuilders or pro powerlifters, the first thing that they focus on is general form. If you don't have general form or proper form, everything you're doing could just be disqualified. Such as, let's say you're doing a powerlifting competition. If you don't have perfect form, you're not able to get down deep enough in a squat, and you're coming up, you won't get 3 green lights. If you don't get 3 green lights, then that means that squat does not count. So it could be your PR. This could be the highest squat you've ever had in your life. However, if you don't have proper form, then you're not gonna actually get it considered as a actual 3 light position.
If you had one thought that you want people to take away from today, Judy, what would it be?
Enjoy your life fully, in every aspect of it, and don't give up on any part of your abilities.
James?
Yeah, for me, it's just focus on your mobility. Like Judy said, just enjoy yourself. If you enjoy being outside, get outside and walk. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go for a 4-mile hike every single day or go for a mile walk every single day. But getting out and starting somewhere small, let's say you ate something for dinner, a good way to actually help your digestive system is just walking directly after dinner. So like a 15-minute walk. It doesn't have to be far, it doesn't have to be doing much, but once you start building up that habit and consistency of being able to do something, everything is going to become a lot easier. Then you're going to train your brain, and it's going to become not a habit. It will actually become a part of your day-to-day life. So just continuously building upon that habit to add it into your life is going to make things a lot easier for you, and you're going to actually start enjoying it more. You'll see increases in so many different aspects of your life. So just get out there, do what you love. Don't let your mindset of I'm getting older dictate on how your day-to-day life is going to be. If you think you can't do it, it's going to make it seem like you can't do it. If you think you can do it and you can't do it at the time, it's going to become a lot easier to get to that point because you have a goal set, which means you're going to push yourself to actually obtain that goal.
Right. Yay.
Thank you very much. That is it for tonight. I thank you, Judy and
Thank you.
James, for sharing with us. It's been a very inspirational presentation, and I've taken a lot away from it.
Good.
In Bethel Park, we thank you for watching the Bethel Park Recreation Live Well Speaker Series, and we will see you next month. Thank you.